Well, it's about time for another weekend edition of All the Way Live with the Love Byrds. I am one half of your dynamic duo. I go by the name of Dr. James Byrd. This lovely lady right here, her beautiful, talented wife, this bride of mine, she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together we are
the Love Byrds.
And we want to thank you for joining us for another quarantine style edition of All the Way Live with the Love Byrds. I don't even know if I should call it quarantine style anymore. Maybe I'll call it pandemic style.
I don't know what you call it. It ain't right.
But we are happy to get a chance to share with you on one of our favorite subjects in the whole wide world, the subject of marriage and the family. And for those of you that may be new to what we do, I read articles and things like that and study on things during the week concerning marriage. And once I get something that I think is interesting, then we talk about it live on the air for you guys, just to share it with you. We've been faith-based marriage counselors for over 20 years, and this is our way to give some of that information that'll help you free without you having to come and see us. Now, there are times when we know people do need to come and see us, but take advantage of this opportunity every week. And go ahead, baby, and share what you would like to share with the people.
Hello, people. That's what you say. Hello, couples, and all you wonderful people who are watching All the Way Live with the Love Byrds. We are so honored that you tuned in today. But can you guys give us some of your feedback and kind of say something in the chat or whatever? At least let us know that you're there, or what's your opinions and what are you thinking and how can we help you? But at the same time, I want you to take your fingers and I want you to share, push the button and share with other couples so they can be blessed just like you. Let's hit it.
All right.
And here we go with my crazy thing again.
Well, this week we're going to be talking about, as you can see on the title there, preventive maintenance in marriage. All right? Preventive maintenance in marriage. I'm trying to close my notes so I can open my notes. Close Facebook so I can open my notes. There we go. All right. And just to kind of give you a little, introduction. So think about it like this. Any of you ever know somebody, this could be your husband, could be you, the wife, could be a friend of yours, a brother, cousin, uncle, somebody you know. But let's say they have this like special ride, this special automobile, some, 1967 convertible, mint condition, almost one of a kind, special kind of car. And they really take care of this car. I'm talking about on a weekly basis, they're making sure it's clean, inside and out, detailed. They don't put very many miles on it. They treat it with care. They keep it in the garage. They only drive it if it's nice and sunny and shiny outside. They won't even let anybody else drive it. It's their show pony almost. It's, they take care of that car better than they take care of almost anything. There are people like that. Now, let's say you're not a person that has a car that you take care of like that. But maybe you have something that you're interested in like that. Maybe it's, your clothes, or maybe it's, your, not want to say computer, but some electronics or something you have that you just really, really, really take care of. But on the flip side, when it comes to marriage, you don't seem to take care of your spouse in the same way that you take care of that blank or whatever it is. But picture, like I said, this car that somebody really takes care of, but you don't take care of your spouse in the same way. And so you think about that car, you make sure that car has preventive maintenance. It's oil changes, you keep the tires rotated, you do everything. You only use a special type of gas in it. You do everything you can to make sure that thing is working, firing on all cylinders. You don't even speed in it. You drive it gently. Just amazing. But then we don't take care of one another in the marriage at even close to the same level. And marriages break down when we neglect essential upkeep. So, just off the top, speak to that. If how your marriage can break down without just essential upkeep.
And I won't ask the person who I would say this about to be the one who will be the bookkeeper of it or the timekeeper of it, but just allow your spouse or someone else to keep a record of how much time you spend on your cell phone. We spend more times looking at our cell phone, scrolling up and down on Facebook and social media more time than we spend with our spouse. I don't even care if we're in the presence of our spouse. That's not time, our intimate time, our quality time, just because you're sitting in the same room. And I think a lot of people are confused about that. They think, oh, we were sitting on the same couch or we were sitting in the same room, so we spend time together. It's one of the other spouse who really truly believe that's true, but that is not true, because that was an intimate quality time that you guys interacted. You were just in the same room. So are you telling me with a stranger, if you sit in a room with a stranger for 8 hours, you say that you spend time with this person? No, because you don't even know them. And that's how we sometimes treat our spouse. We're in the presence of them, but we act like we don't know them. And a lot of times electronics and social media, the car, the whatever, has taken and has replaced your spouse. And even though you don't feel that to be true, have a conversation. If your spouse can speak to you honestly without the world coming to the end and you guys blowing up and not talking for a week or two, ask them, is it true? And get an answer versus you saying what you're not doing. And so a lot of times people will never admit what they're doing or even think that they were on their phone that long, but it's true. And so I just think that we have just displaced our time when it comes to our families and our spouses, and we're not giving them the quality, intimate time that they deserve.
And that can be whatever it is. Don't If it's not Facebook for you, if it's not your phone, replace that with whatever with something else that could be robbing you of that essential upkeep or causing you to neglect your spouse.
Yeah.
You don't want to neglect your spouse. Typically on a higher percentage, we know that would probably be something that's more often that a man would tend to maybe could neglect his wife, because all things being equal, the woman usually is just available to talk and wants to talk and share and things like that. Although, it doesn't count women out, because we know women can be much more on their phones and on social media and stuff like that, sometimes than a man can. So it doesn't matter whether it's man or woman or male or female. But generally, statistically speaking, men, if you're interested in, if you're talking to your wife, or you got something you want to talk to your wife about, or she has something she want to talk to you about, and you're interested in talking or listening or interacting, usually she's going to
respond.
She's going to respond. She's going to be really, really fine with that. If she's not, if this is vice versa, she's not, if this is going against the statistics, then there's probably something that over time that she's felt like you wasn't interested. Because as soon as, she's robbing, as soon as she's, in your presence, she don't want to talk. But then when she's around other people, she's engaged and she's talking, something like that. That means that probably over time it's built up to where you were busy, you were too disinterested, you were busy with other things. Listen, this could be your kids, Sometimes it can be the kids. Sometimes women can be more involved with the kids and not have time for the husband. So I don't want either one of you to pigeonhole it to be the other person. You need to look in the mirror at yourself and say, hey, am I making sure that I give essential upkeep to my wife? And for y'all, for each couple, think about it. Even in the model of the car, what is it for you? What's an oil change in your relationship? What's the tire rotation in your relationship? What's the gentle speed that you drive in your relationship? What's the weekly car wash, waxing that you do in your car wash, putting Armor All on the tires, shining it up, vacuuming out the inside? What is the detail that you can put into an automobile that you should be kind of putting into one another? And you just have to come up with that quality time, reading together, praying together, watching a movie together, going on date nights. These are just things that's rolling up off the top of my head, but you as a couple decide what that is. A marriage that works. Listen to this: a marriage that works takes a lot of work.
But why have people assume that marriage shouldn't have to take work, or feel like they'll work harder at something more than they would the most important thing that they've ever engaged in. You know, it's like, what is that? Or why do you get caught off guard when it is work? And then why do you want to throw in the towel when it is work? When you have people go and say, man, I end up staying at work for 12 hours. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. But I don't see you, unless you're going to get a better job, that you will stay at for 12 hours, that you're going to throw in the towel and quit, because that money is important to you. Your way of living is important to you. So what is it about working hard in this relationship that causes you to want to throw in the towel and say it don't take all that? That right there is like backwards to me, because marriage and your family is the most important thing that you can ever do on earth, because you should be creating a generation, a legacy of good people and better people than yourself. And you can't do that if you don't spend time with it and take care of it.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things on that. One is, I don't think anybody's ever straight out told anybody growing up, or anyone, that, get married one day. It's the easiest thing you can do. It doesn't take work. Nobody ever tells anybody that marriage doesn't take work. But it's crazy how you just kind of, it seems like people just assume that, once we get married,
it's good.
Yeah. It's cool. We love each other. We love each other. We like each other. Then, no problem. It's all gonna be cool. It's gonna work out. But that's not the way it is. It does take work. But that's a good thing, because, like anything worthwhile, great relationships are worth the work.
Yes.
And so if just think about a project. If you've ever had to do a project and you worked and put the work in, you got the tool, you went and bought tools that you didn't have, you put the work in, and when you got done that thing, you had a satisfaction. You felt like, man, I did that. Wow, man. Normally in the past I would have hired somebody to do that, or I would have only bought it if it came assembled. But man, wow, look what I did. The accomplishment that you feel in that, it's tenfold in your marriage. If you put in the work in your marriage and you end up with a good marriage, man, you don't look at it and be like, man, I did that, but you look at it like, man, it was all worth it. All the long conversations, the counseling, the books, the whatever, the forgiveness, the grace, the mercy, everything that went into it, the renewing of the mind, it was all worth it if the end result is a flourishing marriage.
When you think about being with somebody for 30 something years, I know what people say when they're with somebody, like, just the thought, if I live, say, another 20, 30, say 30 years, that I would have to like start over and do that same assignment all over again. I can't even imagine having to start over.
Couldn't imagine it.
My mind won't even let me do it. And I know people say, after you've been by yourself, or say something happened and you have to start over, based on what we have achieved, to think or to want to just have to do that again at this moment, not just because I'm with you, but just what I know that's out there. And even the younger generation is having a hard time, getting people that are honest and loyal and have character and integrity. It's just like, no way. I just can't even imagine that, after all the work and time and investment and, getting to a point where you don't have to argue and fight like that and do the things that you started out doing, where like, I will scratch your eyes out. Now I'm just like, is your eye okay? And so no, you don't want to do that again. I know I don't.
No, that's great. That's great. Question. I want you to ask your spouse a question. Hopefully you guys watch this together. Ask your spouse a question. Question like this, and if somebody wants to type it in there in the chat, they can.
You can't see it.
Do you treat? They can't see what?
I can't see the chat, but go ahead.
Do you treat your spouse with anywhere near the care and attention you treat blank? I'll say it again. You write down. You can go back and listen to this. Pause it. Write this down. Do you treat your spouse with anywhere near the care and attention you treat blank? Now here's the thing. Let your spouse fill in the blank.
Mm.
So if I say, do I treat my spouse with anywhere near the care and attention that I treat? And then my spouse needs to say, sports, the Bible, whatever, car, kids, whatever. Vice versa, the husband.
Mm.
So I want you all to do that. And then do me a favor. If some of you be bold, come back into the chat during the week. Come back into the chat during the week and put in there, first of all, what blank did they say? Put in what blank. Now, if you want to answer, they thought, yes, you do, or somewhere close, or no, you don't, you can do that as well. But if you don't want to put that out there, that's fine. But fill in the blank. What did they say that you give great attention and care to? What was that blank? Ask your spouse to fill in that blank. Do that this week. Listen, it's the little things that always communicate that your spouse is on your mind. It's the little things. What I mean by that, if you are married and once a year, y'all don't do anything. Y'all just work and busy. Y'all get with the kids. Nothing's really going on a daily, regular basis. And then once a year, your spouse takes you to Hawaii for a 2-week vacation. Does that, as you look back at 365 days, is your answer that my spouse, I was really on their mind? Now, they're going to say, well, yeah, you was on my mind every day because I worked 365 days to make the money to be able to take you on this vacation for 2 weeks. Nah, wrong answer. Wrong answer. But if every day, your spouse, did the little things, they cooked you dinner, opened the door for you, ran your bath water, whatever little things, called you on the phone, sent you a text, rubbed your back. If they just constantly did the constant daily upkeep, the essential upkeep on a regular basis, that would seem to be more like communicating that they're on your mind than it would be vice versa. The person that's never around, the couple that's always on the go, they're never around with one another, and then all of a sudden they go on this fabulous 2-week vacation.
Yeah.
Like I said, that was a drop mic. You didn't have nothing to respond on that one, huh?
I really don't. When you just think about it, it's just like, it's so much neglect going on in a marriage. And then they want to have a good marriage, and neglect, it can't happen.
It can't.
It just cannot. And it's like anything you neglect, it is falling apart. Even if the pot or the pan is and whatever is still in the house, if it's neglect, it starts to rust. It starts to do all kind of different things. And it's like, why did you sign up to say I do with a person that you didn't want to spend time with? Or what happened in the relationship that caused you to not want to no longer spend time with them?
That's more.
And what have taken your time that you have to be so busy where you cannot spend time with your spouse? When I hear people say, well, I can't do that, and I can't do something like once a week. You mean to tell me you don't even have an hour to 30 minutes to yourself, for yourself in a week? Then it's something that you're doing that you should not be doing. That if you can't even take an hour for yourself, then there's something wrong with that picture. There's no balance. And that's a lot of relationships.
They're taking an hour for themselves. They're just not taking an hour for the marriage or for the mate.
But so I'm saying, if you can take an hour for yourself, then you blend them in. You cannot say that there's not time.
Right, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they go and be like, we ain't had a date in 6 months. Why?
Well, a lot of people that we've heard say that, man, I just don't have time. When you look at what they're doing, you can see they have time for what they want to have time for.
Everybody has time for what they want to have time for. And if this pandemic haven't taught you anything, it should have taught you that you can make time for whatever you want. Because this pandemic didn't ask you, didn't get permission from you. It slowed you down whether you liked it or not.
Absolutely.
And so if something else can slow you down without your permission, then you should slow your own self down with your own permission to make your family healthy. That's what you should do.
Listen, you made me think, you should, we talk about this pandemic, you absolutely should be watching something like this on a weekly basis and sharing it with other people. Why do I say that? I'm not saying it just because it's us. The reason I say we just got a new church home. I was up to the church and there's a guy in there, he's working on the building, working on the floors. And I told him I do marriage. He knows this is a church, I'm a pastor, but we also do marriage counseling. And the first thing out of his mind was, man, so many people that I know have been have getting divorces and having marriage problems during this pandemic. That was the first thing that he said when I mentioned marriage. And we know that. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why we do this. And I share with him, I say that's why we do a weekly podcast every week for free out there, because we know that this pandemic has caused people to have to spend time with one another and be forced to deal with their issues. And those that are getting divorced and those that are growing apart from one another, it's not because they're not good for one another and they can't work and they can't have a flourishing marriage. It's because they're not getting the tools and necessarily what they need to learn how to fit. They're doing this when they need to be making an adjustment and doing that. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell them that's what we're doing. We're sharing for free out here information on a weekly basis that will help people make the necessary adjustments so that they can fit together and not be colliding and bumping heads during this pandemic. And it takes a little investment. This is the last question I asked you today. Do you invest in your marriage? Do you invest in your marriage? Investments can involve many, many things. They can involve, and when I say they can involve many things, it's got to be, they involve something that you value. So they can involve your time, your attention, your money, extra work, anything you value, high five. Anything you value, that's what you're investing in. And so if you can't tell me that you're investing in your marriage if you're not spending time in your marriage, if you're not giving attention to it, if you're not inputting, watching and listening and reading and sharing things that have to do with that, that's how you invest. And if you invest in something, you know what happens when you invest in something? Over time, they have this thing that's called compound interest. And over time, it starts to grow and grow and grow before you get to, at some point, you get to the point where you're like, how did it become this much? And in your marriage, it could be the same thing. If you keep investing in your marriage, over time, you're gonna look at it like, man, I love where we at. Man, and other people come to that, man, how did y'all marriage get like that? Mm-hmm. And it's not one thing we can say, it's over time. Continue to invest in your marriage. And that's what you gotta do. I was talking to a guy recently about marriage counseling, and he had been coming, and he was like, man, things are going so well in our marriage, it made me wanna say, are we good? We don't need the marriage counseling. But he said, I knew that wasn't the case. I knew that everything's good right now because we are getting this marriage counseling. If I were to stop and we were to stop doing what we're doing, then in a short while, we'd probably be back to where we were. And I said, man, you're a wise man. And that's what happens. You have to keep, and so once marriage counseling does end, you have to keep investing in the things that you've been investing in during marriage counseling. So you don't necessarily have to take that money and keep paying it to the marriage counselor, although if we were your marriage counselors, you can do that. But you start investing in books and resources and dinner dates and all these type of things to help your marriage.
Because the goal is to wean you, not to keep you forever, because anything that you keep forever is still not operating properly, because why would somebody need you forever like that?
You know what I'm saying?
It's no different than a drug or food or something like that. And so no, but what I have found out over time, and even in my own personal life, is that everything you do in life, from the time you wake up until the end of that day, your life should be intentionally. And it's like, if it's not intentional, then guess what is happening? It's just happening. And it's just, oh, I bumped into this. Oh, I bumped into this. It's like, you should start your day out based on what you want and what you desire. It's like, what are you speaking out of your mouth? What is your heart saying? Are you saying, no, today I choose? And see, that's what I've been sharing with a lot of young women, is that every day you have to choose life. Every day you have to choose you want to have a good marriage. Every day you have to choose Jesus if you are a Christian and a believer. Every day where it says take up your cross daily, okay, it didn't say every other day or once a week. So that means that every day you have to make a choice that you're going to walk with God.
Die to yourself.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, even though it don't say die to yourself, but it is say take up your cross daily. And so daily I choose to surrender. And so I wake up with the thought that my life doesn't belong to me, and whatever that looks like, God already knows, and I'm following, I'm listening, I'm in tune to be able to do that. But one thing I can control is my behavior, in the way I act and the way I respond and my attitude. But guess what? If I haven't put nothing in, I haven't been meditating on the right things, and I haven't been in the right environment, that's not going to happen. And so you have to do stuff on purpose to get what you want. And a lot of times we have just lived every day hoping and a praying. If I did a survey of how many people prayed for their marriage all the time on a consistent basis and didn't add nothing else to their prayer,
No
they
truth.
can tell me that they're still having issues, because if faith without works is dead. So if you don't add the tools that you need for that, you just are praying. And that's in anything. And so you have to remember, you have to do something and you're responsible for your part.
All right, very good. I think that's a good place to end today. Um, I just want to say again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you share. Make sure you share this message.
I'm sorry.
And we will see you next week on All the Way Live with the Lovebirds. I am one half of your dynamic duo. I go by the name of Dr. James Byrd. This lovely wife of mine, she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together we are
The Lovebirds.
We will see you next week. God bless you, and take care of one another. Invest. Spend some time with one another. It's all going to compound and work out for you good. See you next week.